All right, and we are live. Congratulations. If you are here right now, you're a savage in my book, at least. So you might be asking yourself, why are you live streaming at 1:30 in the morning? Well, been missing this part of the game for a long time now. Things have been kind of crazy at VT. We're always doing stuff, but I just set up the studio and going to be live streaming every day now, at least an hour, no matter what. Gonna start a consistent time pretty soon, but until like Christmas and all that's over, just one time at least, like 1 hour a day at least, no matter what. And then we'll get a consistent time going. But today, oh my God, there's just like an overwhelming amount of stuff that you just have to talk about. Like this rat, Mike Johnson, who's literally doing the exact same thing that Kevin McCarthy got ousted for. So check this out. This is his sales pitch for what he's trying to do.
Conservative play call. We don't normally like what's called a continuing resolution, a CR, but in this case it makes sense because if we push it into the first quarter of next year, then we have a Republican-controlled Congress and President Donald J. Trump back in the White House will be able to have more say over the funding decisions for 2025. Now, that would have been an easier thing to do, but then we had circumstances outside of our control. We had these emergencies that are required. So we had, as you know, a record hurricane season. We had Helene and Milton, and they just did massive destruction across our red states, frankly, in the southeast and the eastern side of the country. And then we've had farmers who are in jeopardy of permanently going under. They've had 3 lost years in a row because of Bidenomics and inflation and other circumstances outside of their control. And so when you cobble those two things together, there's a desperate need for that aid, and that's what adds another $100+ billion to the bill, and that's why everybody's uncomfortable with it. I am too. We have a massive deficit and debt problem, of course, in this country. We can begin to address that and shrink the size and scope of government in January with Republican control, but we've got to bridge the gap to get there, and we cannot leave our small farms and ranchers and our people who are devastated by the hurricanes out in the meantime. So that's the difficult part about this. That's what people are really struggling with, and I am too, but we have
Yeah, Mike, that's not what I'm struggling with. What I'm struggling with, I think what everybody's struggling with is because it's the most common sense thing in the world that if you're going to whine and complain about, oh, the farmers need our help, oh, the hurricane victims need our help, which, yeah, they do. We've been saying that for months now. But you're not going to pass this 1,500-page bill with the excuse of helping the farmers and the hurricane victims as we're watching Biden give just billion-dollar donations to Africa, billion-dollar donations to Ukraine still. We're not buying this, Mike. Like, you've been doing this continuous resolution thing for like over a decade now. You haven't actually expanded the debt ceiling once. You have this loophole where you get to pass all your garbage through. And I mean, everybody's in on this. Everybody benefits from it except for like the 99%. So like even Fox News is trying to pitch us in this watch.
Voice, we have to fund those. We have to fund FEMA. We have to fund our farmers.
Right. And Mr. Speaker, it's not just so you've got a bunch of Republicans who are angry at you. They don't like this. And just in a couple of weeks, you're going to stand once again to run for Speaker of the House. And you don't need a bunch of Democrats mad at you. But you know, and this is breaking news you do not know. You know who also does not like this? Elon Musk, the world's richest man, just tweeted this bill should not pass. The only way you're going to be able to pass it now, Mr. Speaker, is with Democrats. If you could, what's your message to Elon Musk?
Well, I was communicating with Elon last night. Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together, and I was explaining to them the background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. And he said, look, I get it. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor-thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either.
Yeah, you know, when I stopped trusting Mike Johnson, I mean, I never trusted him to begin with, but Glenn Greenwald brought up a fantastic point. I believe it was on Tucker Carlson. No, it wasn't on Tucker Carlson show. So on one of his episodes recently, he said that when he spoke to Mike Johnson before he became Speaker of the House, his absolute biggest passion in his Congress life was to undo what was done with the Patriot Act and the FISA warrants and the surveillance and everything. That house's bread and butter. The one thing that he wanted to take away, the one thing he wanted to change was to reduce the damage that had done. And you become the Speaker of the House, and the expiration date for the FISA warrants and the Patriot Act stuff comes due, and he goes completely against what he's always said that he wants to do because he said he had a conversation and saw things a different way. No, no, Mike, no, don't trust you one bit. And let's take a look and see what's inside this bill. And you say you spoke to Vivek. I'm glad he brings that up because we have a clip from Vivek giving his side of this.
About to pass a bill that blows away your taxpayer money, but they made it over 1,500 pages long so you wouldn't read it. I did you a favor. I read it for you. It's supposed to be about keeping government operations open and providing disaster relief aid to hurricane victims, which I'm sympathetic to. But if you read the bill carefully, it contains pay raises for members of Congress, and I'm not making this up, an expansion of their federal health benefits.
It sure
contains
does.
all kinds of special interests and pork funding, including opening up a new stadium in Washington, D.C. It renews the Global Engagement Center, which is a key node of the census industrial complex. And the worst part is, they didn't want you to know about any of it, and that's why they made this a last-minute jam job. The reason I'm co-heading DOGE is I think we need outsiders to bring actual accountability to Washington, D.C. So feel free to call your congressman and let him know how you feel about it.
Thank you, Vivek. So they sure did. They tried to. So they say this whole thing. Oh yeah, we haven't had a pay raise in over 10 years. Yeah. So they make 175 right now, and the pay raise was going to be up from 175 to $243,000 per year. And in addition to that, they're trying to expand Social Security with $200 billion over the next 10 years, saying that they just want to boost the amount that government employees are getting in their Social Security. Guys, listen, baby boomers have straight up pillaged millennials and Gen Z. Like, they literally grabbed into the future, took our wealth, and extracted it from us before we were even born. So I do not want to hear a single thing about Social Security not being sufficient. They're lucky they have Social Security because that was set up to fail from the beginning. And I have a funny little montage here of Congress people talking about their wages and how difficult it is. And real quick, I think this is a sign that the insider trading thing might happen where they get some sort of restrictions on that, because the reason they haven't advocated for a pay raise in over 10 years is because they're able to make ridiculous amounts in insider trading, obviously. But check this out.
The average income in my district is $55,000 a year. A congressman makes $174,000 a year.
If I go back to my district, where the average salary in some places is $32,000, and I say I don't make enough when I make $174,000, they would go ballistic. I'd be out of office in a heartbeat. And yet, trying to maintain two places to live, have clothes in two places, have a car in two places, it's very difficult.
When I got to Congress, I realized, holy smokes, that comes out of my pocket without reimbursement.
And you're not allowed to write off any of the expenses.
I had a roommate. Every time I've rented an apartment, upwards of 100 Congress members actually sleep in their office because it's expensive.
Washington is expensive.
All of us ought to be concerned about the future in terms of who can afford to do this.
Do you want it to still be the House of the people, or do you want it to be only wealthy people? I think that it's important to have cost of living adjustments.
I think there needs to be at least an inflationary adjustment.
I think it should at least keep
You guys
up with
are the ones causing
inflation.
inflation.
It should
you
probably
idiots.
go up with the cost of living.
Congress works better when you have a broad swath of the American people being able to run and get elected. I really believe that.
Oh, do you now? They're complaining about the cost of living going up, but they're probably by far the most in control of the cost of living. They control the Federal Reserve. They control the amount of money that gets issued into the economy. Power of the purse, that's what Congress is. And they're saying, we can't keep up with the cost of living. We'll stop making these stupid fucking policies that drive up the cost of living. So there's a happy ending to this, though. It's looking like Trump and Elon Musk, calling these people out, actually thwarted this bill. So check this out.
Right now in the past 30 or 40 minutes here that they might try to pull this interim spending bill off the floor and maybe just go with a clean bill. Unclear what that means for disaster assistance. Here's what happened. A post on X by Elon Musk sent shockwaves through the Capitol. House Republicans were trying to see if they have enough votes to pass the spending bill in the next hour or two. Musk posted that anyone who votes yes should lose their office in 2 years, and lawmakers are scrambling.
Tweets from Musk, has that complicated this?
Well, I mean, I think that there's always a lot of interest in what's happening up here, and
this is more than interest. They're telling people if they vote yes, they should be voted out.
The social media world is a part of our politics, and I think members have to expect that. There are going to be a lot of hard votes in the next couple of years.
A member of the House Republican leadership told Fox that Musk is not helping. The lawmaker added that Musk has bigger fish to fry than picking a fight with House Republicans. One source said the bill is now bleeding support from the GOP. When asked how many Democrats the GOP needs to pass the bill, a senior aide replied, quote, a lot. Lawmakers who had hurricanes devastate their districts are torn.
The fact is that, look, this is a sandwich. I don't know how else to say that. We're being forced into this position. They could have done a standalone. They did this because they knew that it would put members in this position to support it. We're damned if we do. We're damned if we don't.
Now, the bill has about $100 billion in disaster relief, nearly $30 billion to restock FEMA's coffers, and there are lots of health care provisions. Jamming everything together in one bill means some Republicans will not support Mike Johnson for Speaker in January.
Have any other of your colleagues said that they're not voting for Johnson? Any expressed?
Yeah, I've talked to a few, who don't seem like they're going to vote for him. You have to ask them. I'm not going to betray anybody's position.
Will you just vote president, or will you vote someone else's name?
I'll vote for somebody else.
Good. Now, Johnson can only lose one vote and still win the Speaker's race on January 3rd. Some Republicans ask how things are different with a spending bill like this under Johnson than former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The funding deadline is Friday night. Neil?
All right, so I freaking love that beautiful thing. It's such a good feeling to have like people with influence on our side and able to have a voice. I mean, this is the simplest thing ever. Like these congressional bills, they used to be one page, one item bills, and I believe it was like World War I or something that they changed it to be able to do these bulk bills and make it fast and efficient because it was an emergency. But like everything else, it never went back to the old way. So they slap a headline, an emotionally charged headline on this thing saying like, it's for the farmers, it's for the hurricane victims, but it's 1,500 pages of bullshit. So, I mean, if they want to make these things palatable, make it a one-page bill, one-item bill. Like it doesn't need to be 1,500 different things and by the way, these things are written by lobbyists. These Congress people don't even know what's in the bills. It's one of the craziest things out there. But I say it over and over and over again. Like the most powerful thing we could do is to have 535 patriots in Congress. It's not gonna happen all at once, but like each year we need to like take a chunk out of this, like get 20 non-swamp people into Congress. And they brought before, do we really want a Congress with all wealthy people? I mean, I personally am more comfortable with somebody who's already wealthy and goes into Congress rather than somebody who goes into Congress and has an average salary, average net worth, because it's so easy to corrupt those people. Like when you don't have money and somebody bribes you, like it's almost humanly impossible to not take it or not to be tempted by it. So yeah, I am more comfortable with somebody who has means to be in Congress, to be in the presidency. Like every president who was president was rich. They were able to be anti-establishment and ended up dying a lot of the time. So it sounds like this thing's hopefully not going to pass, but creates a whole other set of issues because Mike Johnson might not win this thing. And Speaker of the House is probably the most underrated position out there. Like it massively powerful. Like they control what bills get voted on. Like Congress is a unit. Like there's nothing more powerful in the world than a united Congress. And I mean, like as you can see, like if this was a normal situation, like these things pass all the time. If you look at the last 4 years, like these omnibus bills and everything, and the continued resolutions, like those are the biggest cash cows out there. And that's really, when you boil it down, that's what these, the deep state swamp establishment people are terrified of right now. Like they're already terrified of Trump changing things, but now that they're directly calling out that $5 trillion cash cow, that's like, like there's a reason that DC is the most wealthy place in the world. That like if you look at an average salary per city, DC's light years above everybody else. And that's because of all the lobbying and pork and gross stuff that happens with the defense spending and healthcare and insurance and everything. Like this is the biggest, dirtiest pile of money that's an absolute cash cow for so many people. But before I move on to the next thing, like, so me and PBD did a video 2 weeks ago about how to end up in a situation where you don't have to pay income taxes. Like we did the math on it. So imagine this: our budget or our federal income is like $5 trillion a year, right? So there was a time where 100% of our federal revenue came from tariffs. Now it's like 0.2%. But yet we have like $3.8 trillion worth of imports that other countries export into our country every year. We make 80 billion off that 3.8 trillion. That's like 0.2%. So if we did a 50% tariff, that's 1.7 trillion. If we did 100% tariff and everything, that's pretty much already the federal budget. And that's not even counting the fact that our defense spending, we get price gouged on all of that stuff. Like we could probably get the same amount of stuff for half of what we pay if there's just a shred of oversight and auditing on the defense spending that we do. Like that's a bipartisan issue. There's tons of articles showing like we pay $300 for a screwdriver and like, twice the amount that a Boeing Air Force jet should be worth. Like that Trump tells that story, how a general comes into his office on like the first day and he's like, "Sir, I need you to sign this." And he's like, "What?" It's like, "It's the bill for the new Air Force One." He's like, "How much?" $5.2 billion. It's like, wow, that's an expensive plane. No, I'm not going to pay that. And long story short, he says not paying for it, not signing for it until there's a 3 in front of the number. Boeing brings it down to $3.9 billion. So that's an example of like when you're not a negotiator, when you don't come from situations where you have to negotiate and you're used to people trying to take advantage of you, you just sign all this bullshit and just like that's coming out of our pocket. Like $1 billion doesn't sound like a lot out of a $5 trillion budget, but it freaking adds up. Like the amount of money that we waste on this stuff is, oh my God, it's insane. Like, if you ever read the book Basic Economics or Economics Explained, the worst thing you could do to an economy is sending good money after bad investments. Like that's life and death stuff. And we've been doing that for like 100 years now. It's crazy. But yeah, defense and healthcare, the two biggest, dirtiest piles of money that need to be audited, cut the fat, and cut the corruption stuff out. Like there's like, so health related stuff like Medicare, Medicaid, insurance, that's like 1.6 trillion a year, right? And then defense, that's $1 trillion a year. Both of those can be like automatically shaved 25% off of that if you just cut out the corruption and waste. Like, and then imagine over the last 20 years, we had about $3 trillion worth of just accidental wrong payments. So an average of $250 billion a year, just oops, wrong person. So shit like that, like they should not be saying a single word about increasing taxes when shit like that's going on so frequently. So between that and actually exercising what tariffs could do, and getting a yield off of our vast resources, like, do you know that 94% of the land in America is undeveloped? So imagine what we could do with that. Imagine what that's worth. Like, even if we incentivize companies to build and develop that land, give them a 10-year tax abatement or something, and like rent that land out to people, like get a yield on our assets. Like we don't do anything like that. Like 99% of our federal income is from taxes. Like, is there not a creative person out there that could think of other sources of revenue to fund what we do? All right, next topic. Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve. They're going after Trump before he's even in office. So I'm going to show you what they did last time Trump was in office, and it's jarring. It's not even debatable. They were trying to, tamp down the economic success of the economy last time. But let me show you what happened today after the market originally was excited about the interest rate announcement, but that was quickly tamped down. So check this out. So the Fed comes out, says they're doing the quarter-point rate cut. All right, so the market had been ripping higher. It was like S&P was at like 6,000 for the past few weeks. So they're anticipating this. The rate goes baked in already, but Powell comes out a few hours later and says, yeah, but that's it. Don't expect any rate cuts in 2025. Like, why the hell would you say that? Like, I'm going to show you in a second that it's hilarious that they're saying inflation's down, but like, they were doing all this forward guidance, and like forward guidance meaning telling the market what you're going to do before you do it. They've been doing forward guidance into this like nice, supportive way for Biden, and where they're saying like yeah, don't worry, we're going to cut rates slow, we're going to nurse you along, we're not going to do anything abrupt. But then they just come out, boom, no rate cuts in 2025, and the market just tanks like 3%, which is crazy. It's a crazy drop in just 1 hour. So a statement like that's very intentional. A statement like that is crafted to have this exact impact. I mean, don't get me wrong, the stock market's overvalued like crazy. What is it, the Buffett indicator, where it's like number of 100 means stock's undervalued, number of 200 means it's overvalued. It's at like 237 or something crazy like that. So yeah, this is definitely a setup in a way where it could just shit the bed at any point in time, but less likely now that Trump's going to be in, cut regulations, cut taxes, so all that's going to help. But let me show you what they did last time when it comes to, 1 second. So the federal funds rate and quantitative easing. So federal funds rate. So check out what they did with Obama versus under Trump. No, wrong one. Nope, not that one either. Here we go. All right, ready? So 2008 crash happens. This is Obama, right? So starting in 2009, drop rates to 0 for the first time ever. Okay. So all throughout Obama's presidency, rates are at 0. Then right away when Trump gets in, they start jacking it up. And then don't cut it until COVID happens, right? And yeah, rates are up now, but keep in mind, Wall Street, they've basically had 0% rates this entire time, even with this. And I'll tell you why, because there's this little thing called the yen carry trade, which caused some problems in the market a few months ago. So Japan has had 0% interest rates for like 20 years now. So what people in Wall Street have been doing is borrowing money in yen, right, at 0% rates, converting it to dollars, and then investing in the stock market. So it's a little 0% interest rate loophole. Okay. So this 5% rate that's been at, not nearly as impactful as they're making it out to be. So that's a big part of the reason why the market's been able to maintain its rapid pace that's been at. But it does not stop here with the attack. So everybody knows about the interest rates, but not a lot of people talk about the quantitative easing side of things. So to find this, you do Fed balance sheet. And this was a little creation that was concocted in 2008. So see the spike right here? This is where the Federal Reserve buys government bonds and mortgages. Okay, so just to put it simply, the Fed buys bonds, buys mortgages to push interest rates down to make conditions easier for the economy, okay? So once you start this, like Japan started this 20 years ago to try to undo the absolute meltdown they had. Like you do this when you're trying to ease conditions and grow the economy. And Japan's just a shit show in so many ways. Like that's a whole cultural thing to get into, but they're basically much less resilient than America. Like they have like a really conservative, like low risk tolerance attitude. So they just kind of like the soul of Japan was ripped out after their like big bubble in the 90s, and they stopped having kids and everything. And it's really been difficult for them to rebound. So they've had this there's no limit to what Japan will do with its quantitative easing. Like if rates start going up a little bit, they will slam it down with the central bank, what they do with quantitative easing. Because if the bond rate goes up, it could really mess with the economy, because rates go higher, people borrow less, right? And the value of the bonds is worth less than it was before. So that causes all kinds of problems for the government. So Japan, they have no limit to how much quantitative easing they'll do to keep the rates where they want them to be, which is zero or negative. But America, we started this in 2008 because they were trying that hard to, I guess, ease conditions or have us rebound. But so, see, jumps up with Obama after the 2008 crash, then up. What do we have here? This is what's called quantitative tightening. So right when Trump gets in, this starts going down. Okay? So that's a big deal. Like this is a giant experiment. Like, Japan's the first one to do this, and everybody kind of sort of followed it after 2008. But why start selling off the bonds you've been accumulating right when Trump gets in, unless you want him to fail, right? So this obviously goes way back up during COVID and way up until 2022. Then this little spike is this is when that bank crash happened in 2023, where the hell was it, SVB or something. And then they like started this thing with a whole different name that they're trying to act like it wasn't quantitative easing, but it was. And then they kept selling off, and they're still selling this off. So this literally takes money out of the economy. Let's look at M2 money supply quick. Let me know if I'm nerding out for you too much, but this is like what you gotta look at when it comes to what to expect of the economy. So this is interesting, and this is something to explore another day, but it's very strange that M2 is going up while QE is going down. Might be because a lot of loans are happening or people are still taking out debt, but that's like two counter-imposing things that shouldn't be happening at the same time. Topic for another day. But what we do need to talk about today is this drone thing, because they're talking to us like we're freaking children. Ready? So first, in case you didn't see, I'm going to show you what Biden said about the drones, because it's so insightful and important here.
Nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. I think it's just one. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got it. Everybody wanted to get in the deal.
All right, so there you go. Nothing to worry about, nothing nefarious. And then you have different things coming from different people in Congress. So here's what this guy said.
One answer is what the response that I'm getting is that we don't know whose drones these are. I was with the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson. He said that these drones have been reported over military sites, military bases. I would not think those are friendly. I would think those are adversarial. In fact, NASA seems to be picking up more than our military is with respect to the drones. So I think Congress is going to pursue this. I know the House Intelligence Committee is having a hearing on this. We need to identify who is behind these drones. My judgment, based on my experience, is that those that are over our military sites are adversarial and most likely are coming from the People's Republic of China.
Okay, so that's the first China claim that I've heard. We've heard Iran before. We've heard we don't know. So now we got China on the table, and then here comes the military telling us why we can't know about it.
Why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones? They're not military drones. Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I don't. I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that again, we are sharing as much information as we can based on what we know.
All right. So, real quick, it just needs to be said. We know that we get ripped off to pay the military budget. We know that they spend far more than they need to. They let themselves get ripped off to help out their buddies who help them get elected by double and triple and quadruple paying for things. But something that cannot be tolerated is with a $1 trillion budget, when we spend more than the next 10 countries combined. If you're going to rip us off, if you're going to spend that much, you sure as hell better be on top of everything. We better not have one iota of concern when it comes to defense. But they're acting like they don't know about this thing, which they obviously do know about it. It's insulting to say that they don't know about it, but whether it's this or hypersonic missiles that we're behind in, we shouldn't even be close to being behind in anything. There shouldn't be a single thing in this world that we don't know about. So, it's crazy that they are shameless enough to act like they don't know what these slow, giant floating drones are. And then you have these shill people that this guy who used to work in the FBI counter drone programs comes on the news and says oh yeah, people often get confused, and when there's reports of this, they'll see an airplane and think that's drone. Dude, shut up. You literally have mayors and governors and people in Congress coming out and saying they're seeing these things above their house, this guy right here.
In my opinion, that's doing nothing but fueling conspiracy theories online.
Do you have any idea what it could be? Or which side it could be, where it's coming from?
Yeah, I can tell you what it's not. We know for a fact it's not little green men. And more than likely, it's not a foreign adversary, because they would be able to figure out how to turn off the blinking lights. These drones are huge. We had a mayor yesterday on the call with the White House telling them that he had 6-foot drones hovering over his house. Yet they continue to tell us we don't know what we're talking about. It's misidentification. Certainly, there's some misidentification probably going on, but I could assure you that we are seeing drones in New Jersey all over the place.
All right, so Bethany Frankel, I know she's not the New York Times, but she says that she has some kind of contact at the Pentagon, and that it has something to do with radioactive material in New Jersey. What are you hearing?
So here's what I know. I know that we were told by our state police that we have assets over our critical infrastructure. Now, depending on your point of view, that's either concerning or comforting. I think it's comforting because it's probably us listening and watching. We also know that we have drones that are flying in a grid-like pattern. In my opinion, they're looking for something. What might they be looking for? Well, potentially, we're aware of a threat that came in through Port Newark. Maybe that's radioactive material. There was and there is an alert that's out right now that radioactive material in New Jersey has gone missing on December 2nd. It was a shipment. It arrived at its destination. The container was damaged and was empty. So
okay,
potentially
wait,
we're looking
stop
for
right
that.
there, Mayor, because that's very important information. And that came from a credible source.
That came from the U.S. government.
And so it's missing?
Missing.
And they think it's in New Jersey, or it could be anywhere?
It was lost in New Jersey, in transit. And again, this is just an example of what I think that we're sniffing for. I think we do have the assets that can go up and fly around and sniff things, which is why we're not seeing the uptick we used to see in Belleville anymore. It's kind of moving. We're seeing alerts that it's happening now in Pennsylvania.
And that's right about the time that the drone sightings began, right?
Yeah, drone sightings began about 4 weeks ago.
Okay, so when you take a look at this, if this information is indeed credible, why wouldn't the government say, it's us?
That's the crazy part about this. We've gotten very little information. Even yesterday on that call with the White House, literally mayors were told, you guys are seeing things. There's no credibility to this. We have one mayor, like I said, had drones over his house. I mean, we're no longer going to stand for not hearing the truth. I mean, our state government is failing us. They're not getting the answers from the federal government. And even though yesterday they told us that there's nothing to see here, today there's a top secret briefing going on in Congress. Well, what are they being told that we weren't told yesterday?
Real quick, did you know yesterday when you were on that call about this missing radioactive activity or merchandise, or did you know that this morning after the call?
I was made aware of it yesterday morning. I did raise my hand. We weren't allowed to speak. I did raise my hand, was not called on to get that question answered.
So apparently it is concerning. Even the president-elect, who I'm sure gets some kind of briefings on things, he says he's not going to his home in Bedminster, right?
Yeah, I listened to him yesterday. He no doubt gets the same exact briefings that President Biden gets. He says our government knows. He says our president knows. And he also ended with saying, I'm not going to be in New Jersey this weekend.
So yeah, we got the whole nuclear thing, but but they're coming out saying, I think I got it right here. There's an article that says, no, it's not. Drones are not searching for nuclear. Here we go. No, drones aren't searching New Jersey for nuclear material. Latest conspiracy theory debunked. You know, I was like 20% in on the nuclear thing, but any articles like this like exponentially make these theories go higher for me. I thought I heard somebody say that like there are weapons that came across our border at one point, like smuggled across or just traveled across because, you know, that's the way that things are. But, oh man, let's read some comments here. Ambassador Soul says, dude, were you a vampire 2 a.m. live stream? Yeah, this won't be the regular time. Don't worry. Like I said, just got this studio built. Was too excited. Too many things going on to wait until tomorrow. But looking like the regular time's going to be 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Might be a little all over the place from now until the end of Christmas because we're traveling to Arizona in a few days. And then, you know, we have the holidays. So I'm still going to stream like an hour a day until then, until the end of Christmas. But after that, it should be 8 to 10 p.m. every night like clockwork because so much stuff happening every day. And, you know, I want to interact with you guys more. Live streaming is awesome. I love it. I've been wanting to get back after it for a while. So let's see. What do we got here? LMG Philanthropy. Did you see Cuban get cut off while talking with Jon Stewart right when Mark got to the part about banks? No, I didn't see that. Let me make a note about that. Put it on for tomorrow. Cuban Stewart. I have a lot of funny clips too that I have in the reserve that I might play, but I mean, did you hear about this Pornhub thing? So I guess starting January 1st, Pornhub is getting banned in Florida, which I live in Florida. Not gonna act like I'm devastated about that, because of course I've never done anything like that. But I don't know, I'm interested to see as like a social experiment how this is gonna impact people. I mean, I'm sure people will just go to like the like weirder sites or whatever, but I don't know, maybe it'll help boost these fertility rates, because what are we at? We're like at 1.7 births per woman right now. You need I think 2.3 to maintain population growth, but I mean shit, we were at like I think over 4 births per woman in the 60s. And then obviously, I mean, I don't know how deep you guys want to go, but the whole Club of Rome like limitations to growth thing came out, where there was like a systematic effort to make things more expensive, disincentivize people from having kids. Then the feminist movement happens, I'm sure totally by coincidence, get taken off the gold standard. We just stop building nuclear reactors. Like we were building a shit ton of them from, what was it, like the 50s through the 80s, and then just boop, nothing, like 3 in the past 50 years, which makes no sense. Like I always say it, like this is my core thing that I'm going to run on in the future when I try to run for president and everything. Like it would fix everything if we just get the 3 essential things that people need to exist as cheap as possible, not through a socialist way, but through like a deflationary innovation way. So food, housing, energy. those things could be like a tenth of the price of what they are right now if we let the market do its thing, if we actually let people innovate. Like think about flat screen TV, $10,000 when it first comes out 20 years ago, right? You get one for $400 today. Like that same thing can happen with energy, nuclear energy. Look at Finland last year, puts a nuclear reactor on site. Overnight, 75% drop in the price of energy. Okay. Food, vertical farming. Biggest downside to it right now is super energy intensive. But if you actually embrace nuclear energy, it's not a problem anymore, right? Then same thing, like desalination is the most under talked about thing in the world. I think like water is the most important thing in the world for survival, and we use 1% of the water in the world for everything we do. So like 97% of the water in the world's from the ocean. Then like 1.5% is from freshwater sources like lakes and stuff, and then the other 1.5% is from glaciers. So we only use that 1.5% of freshwater for every single thing we do, which is insane. Even more insane when you know that we developed a way to take the salt out of ocean water like 50 years ago, and everybody's ignored it. Again, pretty energy intensive, but if you use nuclear energy, it's not a problem. So, I mean, unfortunately, things like that are things that will make the globalists want to kill you. Check out the book, The Committee of 300. It'll tell you why they hate all this stuff. So it's in my book club, The Forbidden Book Society. I'll throw a link below. But why was I bringing that up? Oh yeah, birth rate. So imagine, housing, didn't hit housing yet. So housing, we used to build like 500,000 starter homes, like under 1,400 square feet per year, right? That's in like the 70s. Today, it's like 50,000 starter homes per year under 1,400 square feet. That's a problem. But we did a video about this a few weeks ago. 94% of the land in America is undeveloped. So our entire population is living on 6% of the surface area. All right. So like starter homes right now, they're like what, 380 to 420, like 380,000 to 420,000, like right off the bat for people who are like graduating from college to try to get. The price of those should be like 120, 150, maybe, and like at the most. Like in the 70s, it took an average of 2.5 years of an average salary to buy an average priced house. Say that number is like 8 or 9 years of an average salary to buy an average priced house. That's not sustainable, and it's not necessary either. Like you cannot convince me that this isn't intentional. Like they let the price of commodities that you need to build houses go up. It's unprofitable for home builders to build these houses, but super easy fix for that. Just take away, like stop taxing home builders, like incentivize them to build homes. Like right now, you build I don't know, just say it costs you $100,000 to build a house, sell it for $350, whatever. Now that's not even realistic. It's not profitable to build things, but whatever the dynamic is, like make a tax credit for homes built that are under 1,400 square feet. Like you build it, you sell it, you don't get taxed on it. Open up the floodgates. Whatever incentive you need to incentivize the building of these starter homes, open up the floodgates. That's what needs to happen. We need to like 10x the number of starter homes that are on the market right now. Like that's how we get this thing going again. So imagine, like on an average salary, housing, food, energy, not an issue. Not in any way a sizable chunk of your salary if you're on an average salary. That fixes everything. Like if those three things are taken care of because of how well we do it, like how well we build it, then there's not poverty, there's not crime. Like crime's committed out of desperation. Like you don't commit it. Yeah, sure, there's outliers, but like the vast majority of people who commit crimes, it's because of things like food, shelter, like staying warm in the cold, like things that are life and death. Like so, food and shelter should not be something that's a sizable chunk of anybody's salary. And again, not saying this in like any type of socialist like handout type of way. I'm saying it in a market economic driven way. If we make this stuff better, if we build it better, if we actually use the technology we have access to, it'd be dirt cheap. That would fix everything. All right. Ambassador Saul, almost 100K subs. Thank you. Help me get to 100. I'm like 900 away. Got to do it before 2025. Let's see. What else we got in here? Clough Oz. No nukes. The risk of nuclear waste is too great to justify nuclear plants at the moment. I'm gonna have to say that is a, what's it? That's not, SAP's not the right word, but the whole notion of we can't use nuclear energy because it's like we can't store nuclear waste. That's a lie. Like it's been proven that's a lie. So they have these capsules that you can put them in. And hey, you want to go a step farther? Doesn't even have to be nuclear energy. Like watch so we made a video about this, about the forbidden technology. What was the other channel that made one too? The hell's his name? The conspiracy channel. The Y Files. So both PBD and Valuetainment and the Y Files made a video talking about this thing called the 1951 Invention Secrecy Act, where there's like 20 people over the last 100 years that created like infinite sources of energy. Like the dude who created the car that ran on water, you could put like a few gallons of water in the car, drive from coast to coast without stopping. This dude, his name's like Sparky or something. He created this thing called 0-point energy, which like defies the laws of physics. So everything we know about physics, half true at best, total lie at the worst. Because so watch the documentary on Amazon Prime called The Lost Century. Basically makes an undeniable case that we're using technology that's like 150 years old right now. Like dudes were creating electric cars in the 1910s that like got their electricity from the particles that are around us. Like there's electricity in the air that we could harness and use for anything. So imagine that. Like we don't even need this like battery and charging stuff like that. Like it's so if I could ask Elon any question, my question would be, does he know about this stuff? And like if so, did he just like create the product that the government wanted? Because that's my theory. I think that he identified that yeah, there's stuff out there that's way better than what he's making, but the government doesn't want that. They want something that they could harness and control to a degree. So he created the exact product the government wanted. That's my theory. Why was I bringing this up? Oh yeah, so the nuclear stuff though. We get stored in capsules. There's safe ways to dispose of it. Like, you know, you stick it in a freaking mountain in West Virginia or something, like, and they last for like 30 years. Being against nuclear energy is racist. I'm glad to hear it. Let me know what you think when you watch the documentary. Thank you for watching. What else we got? Soviet Union equals death. Are you saying because of Chernobyl? Lucifer Samuel Caesar. Interesting name. Who else we got in here? So, America's a movie. Nowhere else is this a concern, says Behind the Business. What is not a concern? I've been jumping around a little bit. Dude, what's your email? I have a video for you, fresh from a friend in Boulder, Colorado, of a big drone swarm. Hit me up on Minnect. I don't typically get my email apps because then I get email blasted. But maybe after we become better friends. I love you though. Jared Wood says, bring back the 1800 if tribans are inhuman or treason. All right, got another video. So this is some treasonous shit right here. Look at what the freaking what do you call him, premier of Canada is saying in response to Trump's tariff threat. And then CNN is encouraging this shit, which I can't believe. Ready? Watch this. This is like, it's one thing to like be on the side of one party against another party, but this is next level. Get the right one. Oh shit, there's another video in here that I meant to show you. 1 second.
Tonight, Donald Trump throwing Canada into chaos after calling Canada a state and calling its prime minister Governor Justin Trudeau. Comes as Trump's nemesis in Canada. The country's deputy prime minister, Chrystia Freeland, who's also its finance minister, is gone. She abruptly resigned after clashing with Prime Minister Trudeau, saying he is not doing enough to stand up to Trump and Trump's threat of 25% tariffs on every single good that comes into the United States from Canada. Trump calls her toxic. But there is another top Canadian official now taking Trump on tonight, Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He is calling for his country to use every tool in our toolbox, a direct quote, including cutting off Canadian energy to the United States if Trump follows through with his threat. Warning, quote, the Americans are going to feel the pain as well. Premier Ford is out front with me tonight. And Premier, I appreciate your time. And I want to just start here with your proposal itself. What exactly does cutting off Canadian energy to the United States look like?
Well, first of all, Aaron, thanks for having me on. You know, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to sell.
So just drink that in for a second. This dude's coming out here saying he's going to cut off energy to America. This Canadian turd, and then CNN is encouraging this, like she's saying this with a gleeful smile on her face. Okay.
More electricity, more power to our U.S. friends and closest allies in the world. But that's a tool that we have in our toolbox. We power over 1.5 million homes in Michigan and counties in Michigan and New York State and Wisconsin. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to sell more energy to the U.S. I want to sell more critical minerals to the U.S. Again, we're the closest trading partner, closest allies. We do $1.3 trillion of two-way trade. That's more than Japan, China, UK, and France combined. I just feel we aren't the enemy. The big problem, in my opinion, is China. Cheap Chinese products going through Mexico. They're slapping a made in Mexico sticker on, shipping it up through the U.S. and Canada and costing American and Canadian jobs.
So, when you talk about that Americans will feel the pain if you have to go through with this, you specifically threatened to turn off the lights to 1.5 million Americans. And I say that just because if you're specifically talking about electricity coming into the U.S. from Canada, that only makes up about 1% of annual U.S. electricity consumption. That's according to the EIA here in the U.S. But, Premier, when it comes to crude oil, if you go bigger, you're looking at Canadian exports to the U.S., 60% of America's total oil imports come from Canada. So do you want to go bigger in this? If these tariffs are going to go through,
why is she encouraging him?
Should you reciprocate with tariffs, not just on electricity,
smile on her
but on
face.
crude oil itself?
That fucking witch.
Well, we ship down 4.3 million barrels every single day. If there was a tariff on that, that would increase gas by $1 a gallon. That wouldn't go over very well.
All right, I've had enough of this guy. So, first of all, I've been saying this for years. I consider it a privilege that we just allow Canada to be there and talk any semblance of shit to us. I mean, I guarantee you that if the president came out right now and said to the Canadian citizens, guys, if you want to be an American citizen, declare yourself an American citizen, and you're an American citizen, over 50% of the people in Canada would do that. And then, boom, we own Canada. But this guy's gonna try and act like they have any degree of leverage over us. Try us, dude. You are so much more dependent on us than we are on you. It's not even close. And when it comes to this tariff thing, so I just started reading a book called "There Is No Free Trade" by what the hell's the guy's name? Hold on, I'll look it up quick. So this guy was in Trump's administration, and I've been trying to really wrap my head around this topic because it's one of those lies that was a fundamental lie that it's the first thing you learn in economics class in college is Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. And it's all about free trade. 1 second. I gotta get better at typing and speaking at the same time. All right, so this is the book. Here you go. Here you go. So by Robert Lighthizer, No Trade is Free. Check this book out. I'm reading it right now. And yeah, this, like I said, this is a fundamental lie. Like, it's like driven into your head from the time you go to school if you're majoring in economics that free trade is the greatest thing ever. It's protectionist to be against free trade, blah 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 blah. Like, guys, so the way we got ourselves in this position is that after World War II, like if you haven't heard the Marshall Plan, it was basically that like 90% of all the gold and wealth in the world was like made its way to America by the end of World War II, right? And like the rest of the world was just decimated. So we kind of just pumped money into the rest of the world to revamp it. Because like think of the analogy: if you're the richest person in the world, everybody else is just decimated, has no money left. Like, what's your priority? Your priority is to get them back on their feet, so things can start moving again. Because like money in the economy kind of dies the fastest if the movement of money stops. So like you'd almost rather give up some of your money just to like jumpstart the movement of money again instead of holding on to it. But so a big part of that was that we let them, like places like Europe, Japan, put 100% tariffs on us. We put 0% tariffs on them to jumpstart them, Okay, whatever. We're going to do that for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, no problem. I get it. Like we're strong enough to do that. But it's still in place today, like 70 years later. And everybody's just let it be. No, that's not okay. Like it's objectively putting us in a worse position. Like jobs that would be paying 200, 250, $300,000 a year, like gone. Like perfect case study, Detroit. Detroit was a booming, beautiful city, and then just gets decimated. Like it looks like a apocalypse hit it right now. So like that is a microcosm of what's happened all throughout America because of things like this. And people say, "Oh yeah, but like things will be more expensive if we put tariffs on things." Yeah, but what if we could eliminate income taxes because of how much revenue we generate from tariffs? Like you have a choice on what you buy. Like you have a choice if you get the newest iPhone or like the newest electronics, like things that do get made in China that would go up in price. But like we aren't given a choice if we pay income taxes or not. So if you make $100,000 a year and you could save 30,000 by not paying income taxes, but your iPhone is 2,400 instead of 1,800. I think a lot of people would take that trade. All right, I'm gonna read some comments quick, and I think I'm gonna put this one to bed in a few minutes because, believe it or not, I still have to go to the gym because I don't know. I just have to do that before I go to bed. Lucifer Samuel Caesar said, DEI allowed statistics to take jobs from professionals, okay, with no experience. Skip Stones well said, if U.S. made Canada, if U.S. made Canada its 52nd state, will it upset the Supreme Court? If so, then just make it Puerto Rico. Mike Trainer said, if we were smart, we would have worked with Russia. Russia, the states would be powerful. Oh, well, I guess that's just effed. Yeah, I mean, the fascinating thing about Russia is that, like, not only Putin, but also I think Yeltsin and Gorbachev all asked us to be part of NATO. And this is really a lie that goes back all the way to the end of World War II. So it's pretty interesting how General Patton, the most popular and most well-respected person in the military at the end of World War II, was saying, like, guys, what are we doing? We need to steamroll Russia right now. We need to get this Stalin regime out of power. Like, this is not going to go away. This is going to be a problem, and we have the strength to do it right now. And Patton ends up dying under mysterious circumstances when he was the front runner to be president. So I'm sure that's just a coincidence. And then on the heels of that, nuclear weapon finds its way into Russia's hands, and they have the ability to make them now. And then we have 40-year long Cold War that costs, I don't know, something like $10 trillion over the course of 40 years, right as the military industrial complex, which was just entering its infant stages, was worried about not having a war. Eisenhower warned about it. He's like, yeah, this monster has been built as a result of World War II. Watch out for this thing. And people did not listen to that advice because that thing became an even bigger monster that I'm sure had a large part in pushing for the Cold War. And then when the Cold War ends, that was really panic mode for Russia. So I think defense budgets got cut by like 30% right away, right off the bat, like when the Soviet Union collapsed. And then, unfortunately, that made the 200 defense contractors consolidate into 5. And the president of Lockheed Martin led something called the Committee for NATO Expansion. How funny is that? And, they lobbied for like increased NATO funding for certain weapons to be given to certain countries. Oh, yeah. And during that time, Russia wanted to be part of NATO. Putin called Bill Clinton, said, hey, I want to be part of NATO. Like, what we got to do? Bill Clinton said, not this time. So why do you imagine that happened? Yeah, because we need a reason to spend money. We need a threat. So, they can't have our biggest threat, our biggest excuse to spend billions of dollars in military spending just become an ally, because then, oh my God, they would shrivel up and die. So yeah, like I've been really down that rabbit hole lately, and yeah, like there's no good reason why we need to be adversaries with Russia. I think the whole Red Scare thing is bullshit. I think that the whole Putin thing is bullshit. The Middle East stuff is bullshit. So the National Endowment for Democracy is like a straight up branch of the CIA. So Mike Benz explained it really well in what was it? So Carter administration like defunded the shit out of the CIA and like kind of took a lot of power away from it. Reagan wanted to undo that. He wanted to give more power to the CIA because whatever his motivations were, I'm sure a big part of it was that George H.W. Bush was the vice president and had a lot of influence over him. So he creates the National Endowment for Democracy, an NGO that operates on behalf of the CIA. So, they just pump money into this thing, and then this thing will pay people in countries to protest against the government. So this happened in Ukraine, this happened in Libya, this happened in Afghanistan, it happened in Syria, and like any country there's a revolution and that overthrew the government, you could find fingerprints of the National Endowment for Democracy and many other NGOs all over it. And yeah, so a lot of this stuff is straight up manufactured, not an organic situation at all. What else we got? Thank you for tagging me in the Cuban clip, LMG Philanthropy. I appreciate that. Let's see. China screwed Canada over hard. The money laundering is insane. China already put in 24 trillion. They want our economy decimated. That's interesting. I'll have to explore what's going on with China again. I can't say I know too much about that. China's an interesting topic though, because a lot of people are under the belief that they're like the next big thing, but then people argue that they're a paper tiger because they have like enough empty houses in China to house the entire population. But meanwhile, it's like the most expensive real estate in the world. And real estate is so hard to come by for certain people that they have to like start paying their mortgage before their house is even built. And if you don't know the reason for that's because they don't trust the stock market. They're not allowed to own crypto. And the best investment vehicle in the eyes of the people in China is to just buy a second home and don't let anybody live in it, because they consider it like bad woo or whatever to let somebody live in their house, and that like devalues it. They're under the assumption that real estate prices are just going to go up forever there, because like they have been for their entire adult lives. And that has almost come cascading down a bunch of times until the Chinese central banks pumped money into it like crazy. Like they do all kinds of crazy shit there to move the market up and down. Like they started giving away loans to people that are in their 60s, like all this crazy stuff. But I think China's overall in a bad situation. I mean, we're in a rough situation too, but like by comparison, like we're probably in the strong situation. Then again, Peter Zion says that a lot, and I'm like fairly confident he is former CIA because he worked for Stratton, which is like a CIA, like private public sector version of the CIA, and he worked for the State Department, which I know a lot of people who work for the CIA in reality, and their cover on papers that they work for the State Department. So very thin line between those two things. But Byron for speaker, I like that. Byron Donalds is a beast. I love him. So real quick, last question. Who should be the next Florida governor? We got, let's see, Byron Donalds, Corey Mills, Matt Gaetz, Laura Trump. Got a deep roster in Florida. Not PVD. Yeah, PVD is not interested in being governor, but don't worry, he's gonna do much bigger, more influential things than that. Like I mean, talk about an incredible guy. Like there's really very few, if any, people I have more love and respect for than PVD. Like just an amazing dude, and blessed to be able to work for them every day, and truly amazing guy. But I do not think he'll be governor of Florida. Let's see. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. Somebody said, I'm confident that Trump will dismantle BRICS. Yeah, I mean, I think like if we just stop shooting ourselves in the foot, BRICS is bound to dismantle itself. The interesting thing with that is that I think that the reserve currency system as a whole, like the dollar's not getting replaced anytime soon, but the reserve currency system as a whole is like a really flawed system because you have to simultaneously like maintain price stability within the reserve currency, like within that country, but also make sure the rest of the world has an adequate amount of your currency. So like the rest of the world needs dollars badly, right, to interact in the international market. So whenever the rest of the world is short on dollars, that creates big problems everywhere. So like a lot of the time when the US creates new money, apparently like they're sending it to the rest of the world, or they're doing it because the rest of the world needs it. And some people argue that's why we deficit spend. I think that we deficit spend because our Congress is corrupt and reckless, but it inadvertently helps a problem that might exist without doing that. I mean, the concept that's called Triffin's dilemma of like simultaneously having to fulfill both those things. But I'm honestly at a point where I'm questioning everything now that economics has taught us, because like the free trade thing, like that is a like crazy lie that was just drilled into our heads. So I'm really looking at everything with like a fresh set of eyes. Couldn't find the Vitium and Energy episode. Which are you looking for, the hidden technology one? Here, I'll find that right now. Here we go. I got you. Now we'll drop this link in the chat and then. All right. All right, there you go. There's the link to that video. Keep PBD safe. He's second in command of my army. Absolutely. He's the man, and we will. But hey, guys, I'm gonna hop off. Love you. Thank you for watching. This was a lot of fun. Something I'm gonna probably do in the future if we start getting crazy. I think it'd be cool to So I'm using StreamYard where you could like take the link and drop it in and invite people in to be in the chat. It's like thinking that'd be a cool thing to do, like how they like used to do in radio shows where they like have viewers call in. I think it'd be cool to drop the link in the chat, have some of you guys jump in and interact. If you got some hot takes or whatever, we could debate, we could just talk shit, whatever. Hopefully you don't say anything crazy, then I'll have to rethink that. But that's something I want to do in the future, fairly soon. But like I said, my commitment to you for the next 2 weeks, for the rest of 2024, 1 hour a day. Can't promise a time right now that's going to be consistent for the rest of 2024. Just will be an hour per day of live stream at some point. But after 2024, it should be 8 to 10 p.m. every night. So thank you. Love you. God bless. Good night. I'll talk to you later.